Time for sex, the podcast. 'Cause sexuality is tough. And okay, sex just isn't good enough. No. Time for sex.
Hey everybody. This is Sex the Podcast, and I'm Erica Miley. So this is part 2 of my 2-part series about sex after divorce, or the end of a long-term relationship. So this episode touches a little bit back on what we talked about in part 1. So if you feel the need to get part 1, go on back and listen to part 1 before you get to part 2. This episode focuses more on what do you need to get more in touch with your body? Like, do you have a sex toy? Do you know how to use lubricant? So here comes the episode. I will see you at the end.
Very Duck, Very Quick is a delicious talk and variety show. Squished around interviews with a side order of skits, a double heaping of characters, and hot steaming weirdness. Each episode, Mike and Aaron order up a new topic and serve it up to you as the Blue Plate Special du jour. You can catch Very Duck, Very Quick on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and blogtalkradio.com. Very Duck, Very Quick is a member of the Astro Panda Network. Vegan-friendly, MSG and GMO-free.
Welcome to part 2 about sex and divorce. I am excited that you're back listening to yet another solo episode. I want to go right in to these questions. I'll kind of remind you of what we were talking about last time we were together. I was asking you questions about how do you get in touch with yourself sexually after divorce or a long-term relationship. And let me just remind you, so what the first 5 with the bonus were. So figuring out who you are outside of a relationship. Number 2, do you connect with your body and is your body yours? Number 3, how do you feel love and how do others communicate that to you? Can you verbalize or vocalize your own personal value? Number 5, last one was number 4. Can you vocalize how you get turned on? And then that last bit, last time was the loving kindness meditation and using a tool like that to be able to engage in learning how to turn love towards yourself and then also turning it outward toward other people. Now, let's go to part 2. So this would be number 1 of part 2 of questions to ask yourself. Do you feel empowered to identify what you need to experience sexual pleasure? Now, this is very similar to what I was saying about how do you tell someone else that you get how to get turned on? How do you feel the power within yourself to say what you need sexually? Do you have the ability to be able to say, I like this, but not that. This is negotiable. This is non-negotiable. Do you have the power to be able to say that? Number 2. This is kind of like a you cannot rather than a question. So there is an old adage of to get over someone, you need to get under someone else. Typically, this doesn't work out. The reason that is that it doesn't mean that having sex with another partner doesn't boost your confidence. What I mean by that not working is that your value cannot be determined by someone else. And your value cannot be communicated to yourself by engaging with someone physically. Your personal value, your worth, you have to learn and know yourself first. One of my favorite ways to think about this is you cannot hold out like an emotional cup, like in your hand, and hold it out for someone else to fill and say, fill my emotional cup. That cup you have to learn to fill yourself. So that is to me why that old adage of getting over someone by getting under someone else doesn't necessarily work. Confidence building and having another sexual partner, yes. But determining your own worth and value by someone else, not so much. Number 3, do you have a sex toy? You need one if you don't have one. This is really important. This is important for you to be able to figure out how to do some of the other questions that I've asked you. How do you get pleasure? How do you verbalize it to someone else if you do not know how to get pleasure yourself? This is where a sex toy comes in. A sex toy can be a wonderful way to figure that out and understand your body and understand what you need to reach orgasm so that you can tell someone else. That is why it's important. If you need tips on where to look, or if you don't even have any idea what to look for, feel free to shoot me a message or an email. I'd be happy to help. Number 4, lubricant. I'm going to say it again. Lubricant. You need lubricant. Most people create some sort of physical lubricant themselves. Not everybody. But as we get older, that ability reduces. And if you, especially for female bodies, it may or may not be enough lubrication for the length of time that you're having a sexual encounter. This also goes for using a sex toy. Your sexual encounters with yourself or others will be better with lubricant. So finding a lubricant that works for you is really, really helpful. Also, being aware of what lubricants to use with your sex toys is really important as well. That is kind of off topic from what we're talking about, but I'm saying that because if you're new to all of this, it's really important to understand that. So we'll come back to that at a later episode. But if you do have questions, like I said, feel free to contact me. Lubricant is important. You need lubricant to have better sexual experiences. Number 5. Sex can get better as you get older. Part of the reason this is because you've started to let go of some of societal expectation that is on you. Not everyone, not always, of course, but as you get older, you start to learn to figure out your own body. And if you haven't, you at least start asking the question of why are you of value? And you start to worry less about how the outside world defines that for you. Many of my clients, many of my friends, myself included, have become more comfortable with their sexual selves after their 20s. Because at least the way they've expressed it is that they felt like they were more preoccupied of what cultural expectations were of not only what their body looked like, but how they should be sexually, who they should be in bed, how many partners they should have. Or say they've come from a religious perspective that they no longer identify with, and they felt that that religious perspective was really limiting on who they were and how they acted, and they often have to process through some of that. Not just clients, but I mean my friends and other people as well. This is not just limited to one person. My aim with all of this is for you to understand that you're not alone. So, how do you find your own personal value? How do you communicate with the world about that value? And how do you communicate with new partners about what turns you on. This is so important because you will have greater experiences if you can communicate to the person you want to have sex with what you like. We don't come with a handbook, and oftentimes people don't get enough sex education as it is. So if everybody's physical pleasure is a little different, you being able to say, this is how I like sex, or this is how I like oral sex, or this is, I want you to touch me here, I want you to kiss me here, is so important. Because that person may have no idea, and they'll be kind of guessing and checking. And whereas if you can communicate what you need, you spend a lot more time experiencing pleasure rather than experiencing that awkwardness of just trying to figure each other out. So I've kind of harped on you about your own self-worth and finding value in yourself. And I hope you understand why this is important when it comes to having sex after a long-term relationship. Because again, we get caught up in how that relationship may or may not have defined our identity. I'll just give you an example. A married person or a married woman who sees herself as only married as to this one person and then having children, and so she only sees herself as a wife and a mother, and her personal identity gets lost from that. Not just sexually, but the things she likes, the things that she enjoys for fun, the things that fill up her emotional cup can get lost in the shuffle of not only just life and time and work, but just helping the people in our lives. So I really want you to think about how you communicate with the world who you are. Because we only have so much life on this planet. Death is guaranteed for all of us, right? Sorry to get so dark and bleak, but here's the deal. Like, we only have so much time, and it's not worth having relationships that are not fulfilling. It's not worth having shitty sex. It's if you can feel fulfilled physically and emotionally and be able to feel wholehearted. I'm going to steal that from Brene Brown. If you can fulfill those needs and walk through your life knowing that you are communicating your most authentic self out into the world, I just hope that some of these things I've said and some of the questions I've asked will get you to think about that. Think about how you exist in this world and how you tell others you experience pleasure. I know that what limits us often in thinking about these questions or thinking about our own identity is shame. Usually it comes from shame messages we got from when we were young about sex and how many relationships we're supposed to have, or how many sexual partners you're supposed to have, or any of those things. When you can start clearing away some of that debris from your life, then you can really start to get in touch with who you are as a person, what your sexual identity, how you are a sexual person, and what that means when you want to have a sexual partner, what you hope to get out of those relationships, and what you'd like to give in those relationships. So I hope you found this of value. If you do have any questions, you can hit me up through email, Erica, ERIKA, at ericamiley.com. You can also check out my website, ericamiley.com. I'd be happy to connect with you. And again, if you are if you're interested in therapy with me, you can hit me up in those areas, and you must be a Washington State resident as well. So a couple little shout outs. I want to kind of shout out, I was looking at the numbers the other day of numbers of downloads, which, by the way, we are so close to hitting over 1,000 downloads, which is awesome. I thank you for all of that. That's just incredible to me. Well, that we have. This is episode, I think you're listening to. This would be episode 11 or 12. Yeah, 11 or 12, and we're almost to 1,000 downloads. That's just crazy to me. I appreciate it so much. But I also was looking at the map of places of where everybody is in the world, which also this is global. This show is global. So you are all aware, which is amazing. And thank you to all of you. And so I want to give a shout out to a couple of the countries that are listening. We've got some Canadians. I am just loving that. Folks from the Netherlands, the United Kingdom. We've got some people from Spain, China, Japan, Australia. I just love that you're listening. And if you would like to connect, feel free to jump on my website. I would love to hear from you. I would love to, or just jump on and do a review. And if you do a review and rate 5 stars, please. Yeah, if you're not going to rate 5 stars, just don't do it. But if you do a review, let me know. I would love to shout you out. And let's get the word spread. I just love that kind of creating this global community together. So again, ericamiley.com, erica@ericamiley.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'm also on social media, on Facebook. You can find my therapy practice, but you can also find me on Instagram for Erica Miley, but also the Sex the Podcast Nerds is a Instagram page that I've created. So if you would like to connect, jump on. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful week.